Chegamos, faltando 1 minuto. Vamos entrar nessa fila aí. Contando as pessoas, né? Passa por cada pessoa e dá um clique e naquela maquininha e vai apertando lá e vai contando o número de pessoas. É ter isso. Minha aí, ó, pro cara não subir nessa aí, a hora que ele subir vai espinhar o pé. Aí ele não consegue subir, né? Já abriu a porteira no horário certinho, 1h45. E nós vamos seguir o guia aí. Ela tá indicando pra onde quer ir. Nós vamos lá, cara. Isso aqui é pra ir pra cá. Vamos lá. Entramos no Forte da Independência. Imagina, cara, isso aqui cheio de soldados. Você imagina que loucura isso aqui.
Our tour lasts about 45 minutes. We walk up, around, look at the sights, walk over the far side, and we're going to come down and end up over the far side, and we'll go through where the enlisted men lived and where we're going to have a Halloween event last weekend before Halloween. So just bear it in mind, okay? So we're volunteers, so we have a very big group because I'm the only tour guide here today. So I'm glad you can come, so just bear with me, all right? If at any time some of the younger people cannot be on the tour, they just had enough, it is perfectly fine to leave. Cliff will guide you back down along the footpath and you can leave, okay? Not a problem, I'm not going to be insulted, right? For those who want to listen to what I have to say about our history, stick with me. If you just want to take selfies, you want to wave at your friends over there, that's okay. But the important thing, you must stay with the group, all right? And if you have to chat, just be quiet if I'm chatting, just for those who want to listen, okay? We have lots of planes going over, and so that's our battle here today. So if they're passing by, I'll just stay quiet until they pass over. Any questions? Finally, safety issues. When we go up on top, there is a big wall in which you're going to be wanting to look over. It has a big slant. It's 40 feet of a drop, and people are picking things below. We do not want you to sit on the wall. We don't want your children on your shoulders. You can look, but do not sit. You can take pictures. It's too dangerous. So just do not go over the wall, right, Tommy? And we haven't lost anybody yet. And finally, no throwing stones. All right, they're the only rules, right, okay? As I said, if you can't stay with me, that's fine. I'm not going to be insulted. But I do hope I'll bring you through fairly quickly. You get to see what you need to see, and you'll be done in at max 45 minutes, all right? Okay, so welcome to Fort Independence. This is the final fort that was built. It's the 8th fort. There's several others, I won't say the names, but the first one was built in 1632. And that's when the British came and landed here, and they decided this was their territory for the future, right? This particular one is called Fort Independence because the previous fort was damaged, and this was in honor that the English were gone. Okay, so that's where we got the Fort Independence, right? Now, Fort Independence, as you can see, is built of granite, and there's over 7,000 blocks in here. If you put them all together, they would be over 10 miles long. The granite came from Portsmouth, not Quincy, because it was cheaper. And at the time, Quincy was cutting the blocks to build the memorial in Bunker Hill. So Portsmouth came here. How did they get them down? They used a barge that came down along the river, and at one point, obviously this was a hill, and they would offload the barge using, I gathered, 3 trunks to roll them and pull them over with ropes to get them into place. So it took 20 years to build this particular fort, all right? If you put these all together, you'd have over 10 miles long, right? Each block was cut to precise measurements, and Sylvester Thayer was the designer for all the forts, the 5-star forts. He lived in Braintree. He was a farmer's son, and he got the opportunity to go to West Point. Well, West Point isn't what West Point is today. It was kind of one of those places where you tap someone on the shoulder and you got in, all right? So he was there, and he was very fortunate. He got his scholarship and went over to France, and he learned engineering and how to build these 5-star forts. So this is a 5-star fort. It has 5 points on it, and each one has 2 cannons in it, and that's how they conducted the battle. And we're going to go into 2 today, all right? Sylvester designed it, came back in in the meantime, he was doing George's Island. If anyone's been to George's Island, that's a bigger version of this one. It's closed at the moment for renovations, right? Sylvester then came back and he wasn't happy with West Point. He thought it was a bit lax the way things were done. So he's the guy who introduced the discipline and the structure that it is today. So if you ever go to West Point and you hear Sylvester there, you can think he started here and he was from Braintree. All right. We would have had over 800 troops here at any given time. They would be camping here, they would be learning about warfare, and a lot of them shifted down to deal with the other battles further down south as well. But on a span from 1632 to this fort, things kind of changed around. So this particular fort is nearly 200 years old and took 20 years to build. We have a bakery here. The officers' quarters were over here, and we are going to go into the enlisted men's quarters all the way. And the officers were allowed to bring their wives, their girlfriends. They had 2 beds, they had a kitchen, they had a privy or a toilet, but the enlisted men got nothing. They had a bunker, weren't allowed to bring their girlfriends or wives, and they just got to eat whatever was given to them, okay? We would have had a bakery, and the bakery would have come from the mainland in Boston, because remember this was an island, and they used to bake bread here. They would have got loads of bread. They would have dried fish, meat, beer, tea, whatever was available, and they probably grew some of the vegetables on the island as well. Any questions? You all good? Right, okay. We are going to walk up here to the top. I'll just keep you there in a group, and I'll just explain a few things up above. Do not go to the wall yet. I'll make sure that you go so far, but just stay behind me for the moment, and then you can go, all right? And at this corner, very corner, we'll be over there. I'm going to talk to you about the Battle of Dorchester Heights. If you want to hear about that, it's the final battle in which the English left for Boston for good. They left on March 17, 1776, and we're going to celebrate 250 years next year. For those who live in Dorchester Heights, they'll be starting a walk from there all the way up here on March the 17th to celebrate it next year. All right, so those to just bear it in mind, okay? And then the final part, we'll be going out, and you can look at the bay, and I'm going to show you how you load up a cannon. All right? Okay, so I'm going to meet you at the top. You already fine? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see through. I can't.
Canhãozão aí. Vamos ver o que ela vai explicar aqui. Vou chegar bem perto agora para pegar a voz dela.
Probably see all the flag poles. We haven't got volunteers to put them up, and we normally have about 100 that goes up. So there, they would be all the different flags. So please, God, if you can come back again, we'll have the flags up for you to see. We've over 100. They come up and down every day. So when we don't have help, we can't put them up. Okay, right. So we're up here on top. This is the wall. Just be careful. Okay. So just looking around, you can see all these grass mans, and they camouflage behind is the star I was telling you about. Behind them there will be 2 cannons. You will also see doorways going into them. And we're going into across the far, so we're going to go under into one of them. What they did have there was where they kept all the gunpowder, the ammunition. Right, you had to crawl in to get at it. All right, and there was a special soldier who would be wearing a tunic with no buckles or catches in order to ignite anything. They had to work their way through. They couldn't have a light, no candle, or it would explode. All right, so very unique. So I'm not too sure what they got paid, but they got better paid than the enlisted men. On average, got about $20 a week or something, compared to the officers 120. Wow. So very different payroll system, right? Over here are Rodman cannons. Now this is a 10-inch Rodman cannon, and the cannon itself is fiberglass, right? And when we've reconstructed a metal one underneath. The cannonballs are again fiberglass, and there's names on them. There are donors that have given us money over the time so we can construct these. Reason why we don't have original ones, and these are not part of, we put these up for your safety over the years, is because during World War II, the federal government asked to reclaim all metal objects throughout the country, so they melted them down to build weaponry, ships, you name it. So that's why. So if you see an original one, someone decided to keep it, right? Okay. Also too, when we're passing by, you'll see a grey mortar cannon, and that was found in a graveyard, and that's an original one. Okay, it was hidden. And you'll see two handles on it, and it's a small one, and they used to move it back and forth in order to kind of not make it obvious to the enemy where they were firing from. And there's an original cannonball beside it. It's quite heavy. So that's a mortar cannon which lifted up and moved over. All right, so you'd see that, and that's an original. All right, for those who want to listen, I'm down at the far end, and then we move on. For those who just want those selfies, go ahead, and just be careful on the wall. I'll see you at the end here. As you can see it there, okay, so that's Bunker Hill, and then obviously you have the city, that area here, and then I want to bring your eyes all the way across here to the left, and the second spiral is Dorchester Heights. Okay, that's just been newly renovated. You can go over and see it, but it's still closed off, but it's been renovated. And then yes, next year we're running the 250 celebration I was telling you about, okay? So we had Colonel Howe that was over there, who had been in battle on Bunker Hill, and their troops were depleted along with the Bostonians. Bostonians lost over 450 men, the English lost over 1,300 men. So they were depleted and ended up over here in Dorchester Heights. And they stayed there over the winter months, so things obviously get bad. It also is not going to be the beautiful sunny day we have here today. So as you know, prior to this you had the Boston Tea Party, where the tea was thrown over because they didn't want to pay the taxes. And there was lots of other skirmishes around the country. So what they decided to, Paul Revere and Adams decided that their main leaders decided it was time to change the course of history, that they had enough of the English and they wanted to change that. So they decided to have a battle over there in Bunker Hill. So they rallied the troops. Unfortunately, they were not successful. But however, in the meantime, Washington heard what was happening, and he came with his troops, and he came all the way up the coast, and we landed over in Charlestown. And then overnight, he eventually came over in March, and they surrounded the English. They camouflaged and went up in bales of hay up the side and surrounded the troops with cannons and asked them to leave. So on the 17th of March was evacuation day. They had to remove their families, and they came out from Dorchester Heights, came over the bay, and left their children. So that's evacuation day, March the 17th, and there will be celebrations next week. All right, so hopefully you'll be all around for that. Okay, now we are going to head all the way across. You'll see the doorway. I will go in front. All the way across. As I said, you can see the mortar cannon as you can pass by, the little grey one that they used to move it back and forth. So you'll be passing by that. But I'm going to see you all the way over the far side, and I'm going to show you the 15-inch Rodman cannon. Okay? All right. Are we all ready? Good? Okay, so follow me all the way across.
É forte mesmo. Aí, ó. É forte, forte mesmo, Brasil. Ó, a menina tá explicando lá. Tô perdendo. Olha isso. Que é isso, hein? Acompanhar ali, meu filho. Chega mais perto que eu quero a instrução toda em inglês. Depois vocês traduzem. Closet, não público. Wow.
So all these blocks that you see, these are chimney pots. So they're all blocked up. That's where the houses are. They would have lived and they would have had fireplaces.
They also have chimneys on them.
Yeah, there's a few vents, but I think also true for Campbellton. Yeah. All right? Okay.
Que isso, cara? Doideira. É, meu filho. Chegou na área aqui. O canhão, meu. Olha aí. O tamanho disso, olhando de longe, parece que é pequeno, velho. Gigante. Gigante. Você fica doido. Que vista, hein?
No, but they had the World War II cannons that disappearing.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know. Sit close. So this is our 15-inch Rodman cannon. Okay, 15 inches because the diameter is 15 inches across. Okay. Anyone any idea how much it weighs?
50,000 pounds.
Very good. Hit it on. You were here before. You know all this knowledge, huh?
I read up a little bit.
So this is approximately 50,000 pounds in weight, 25 tons. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Now, obviously, this is just fiberglass and the base is metal, right? Okay. So it took about 12 to 14 soldiers in which to load up this particular cannon. So each one had a role and a very important role. So say we've now fired the cannon, we're left with embers inside. So the first part of that is they had to have a bucket of water and they had to douse it and put out the embers. Then they would remove all the embers, and when it was cooled down, then they would start to load up, right? They required approximately about 400 or so pounds of cotton or straw, which they used a rammer and rammed it in to the base after it cooled down. Then they would have the gunpowder, which offers an equal amount. That was rammed in here next. Now they have to figure out how are they going to get the cannonball in there, right? Okay, so this is one of the size. It's an original one we retrieved from the sea, all right? So what they had to do is they had to get it in there. They also had to figure out the angle in which they're going to fire out to sea. So when you're passing by, you'll see some little rungs at the back. They had a metal rod on which the engineer would decide this is the angle in which to do. So they did the angle, placed the rod in it, and now they had to get the cannonball in. So they were all stacked roughly over here in the center, and they were on racks. So when you think of a fairground, I like to describe it that way, and you're trying to get that cuddly teddy inside the glass, you had these little tongs coming down to grab them. That's how you have to vision how they were over here. So they had a kind of a swing-like mechanism. There's holes in some of the cannons, and they put the claws in, and they had to lift it up. And then they pushed this all the way over to the center, and if everything was going well, popped in there, all right? Then they repositioned it in the angle, pushed it back into place, and then they would light the fuse here, and everybody step back and hope that it fired out to sea. All right, so you can imagine the boats are not going to sit waiting for someone to say, hi, here I'm coming with the cannon. So it wasn't the most accurate, right, okay? But it went right out to where those 4 islands are all the way out there. So it's quite a distance, all right? There were also other cannons all placed in the hills as well, but we have since removed them. But that's how this particular one. So over the course of history, things changed and they were no longer viable. So when we walk down the stairs, we will see 2 cannons, very narrow ones. They're called paracans, or rifles as they're sometimes called. And that was what changed the course of the battle. They no longer were from a fort out to sea. They were now doing the battle out to sea because the cannons were smaller and more viable. They could move them around, all right? So these became obsolete eventually, all right? Now, if you wish to look out here, I'll explain some of the stuff that we can see from here. To the left, we have the sewage treatment plant. I like to call them the dinosaur eggs. Over all the way out there. They process over 250 gallons of sewage per day. And then there's a pipeline goes further out to sea, 8 miles. At one point, cost was the dirtiest, and now it's one of the cleanest. Okay? If you go to the center, you can see a lighthouse all the way out. You see those 3 little islands, and to the left of the one, you can see it flashes every 10 seconds. It's the Brewster Lighthouse. It's over 300 years old. There was originally a lady lightkeeper last year. She moved on to other things like 72 times. And every 10 seconds you see the light flashing. Alright? If you go further over here, we have Spectacle Island, which was originally the American burial site, and the bones were removed. And now it's used as an outdoor pursuit centre. And there's kayaking, there's a park, there's a boat that can bring you there, there's a coffee shop, just some sort of a museum. So there's lots of stuff that goes on there. And the rest of the soil came from the big dig. If you used it, come through the tunnels, the soil all had to end up somewhere, and it all ended up over there. Alright, so that's stay there. If you go all the way around, I wanted to point out our causeway. And this used to be the only access into the island. Remember, we're an island that's, and there's hundreds of islands around Boston, and Boston eventually kind of reclaimed land, and originally Copley Square was the sea, and the library there was where the customs house, the ships came up to there. So there's a lot of reclaiming of land, and even when we talk about Bunker Hill, the same thing, it was an island, it wasn't connected, it wasn't a nice road to go out there. So over the course of history, the shape of Boston has changed. So you have J.F. Kennedy Library all the way out there, the museum out there, the black and white one. Anyone is into politics or understanding how the state runs, you can do an interaction. You can be a statesman for the day, a woman, and you can vote on the most popular ice cream, and then they'll vote on it as well. And there's also other museums there that you might like to see. And then you have University of Massachusetts. If you wish to walk from here, there's a footpath all the way. It's part of the Harbour Walk, and it goes right out to UMass. It's about a good 3 miles, I'd say, up north to walk out of. But you could hire a bike as well to sit there. So anyone interested to get the Any questions? We're good? Okay, we are going, if you look straight, you can see another one of these, no cannons in there. We're going all the way across there. We're going to go down and take a right. We're going to walk along the railings. If you're walking, you will realise you're near the granite blocks. That was all there was. There was no fancy railings that we've since put in for your safety. That was it. So health and safety wasn't the best place to be, right? Okay, so they used to have kind of rope to get up ladders, and they used to have, when we finally go downstairs, you can see little rivets, and that's where they would have had kind of planks of wood in order to walk. Wasn't the safest place to be. And all these granite blocks are actually chimney pots, all right, that you're passing by. You'll see them all, we've closed them all off. All right, so we're walking all the way down over the far side, and we're going in to talk a little bit more about World War II, okay?
Descer a escadinha aí.
Do not wait for Alpha when you get down there.
Entrando no buraco aqui, ó. Entrando no buraco aqui. E sai do outro lado. É, Brasil, é nóis. Explorando Boston inteiro, cara. Mas é assim, não tem esse negócio não. Vamos lá. Ó. 1890. Que é isso, cara? Que virem. Certamente é homenagem a soldados, né? Certamente. Mas outro buraco não vão entrar aí. Olha lá. Temos uma guia turística aqui. Tá por nossa conta. Que vista, hein, Brasil? Eu filmei tudo lá embaixo já.
Los Angeles. And remember at the time the Panama Canal wasn't there, so all of that changed. It took 89 days to do it, and what the record was broken by about 2 days. But it's you wish to see a model of it? It's in the fine arts, so you'll see a model of it, okay? What I wanted to point out is this extra dropped these magnetic igniters that would attach to the boats. And so obviously, and I don't know this but for a fact, but I think it's what I've been told, the boats, as they're in the water, they magnetize over time. So they have to basically demagnetize or degauss the boats. So they use this as a looking point in which to help the boats getting through, because it couldn't predict what was going to happen. And obviously during that time, Boston Harbour was commercially active with lots of kind of equipment and stuff coming through. So they thought this was a good point to have. So what happened was when it was safe to come in, they would have a green or a red flag to indicate it was safe to come into the harbour. And what they used to do, they had a metal rod that went from here all the way over to where the airport is, and that was to help the boats. Part of World War II. They used to come around the back of the fort. Whatever. The boats were safe. The fort was as a result of it, alright? Obviously you can see Bunker Hill from there, and then as we look here, do you see all these areas here? You see the little windows, they would have had all cannons coming out. So when we're below, we're going to have one cannon placed out in the porthole. So there was constantly cannons firing, and it was a great foothold for protecting the enemy below, right? Okay, and as we said, the Corrit cannons are down at the end of the steps we're going now, and that changed the course of history, so this fort wasn't as active as it was. So it was decommissioned. It was used for lots of different purposes until our organisation, which are over 40 years, came over and we got involved with all the local volunteers. Unfortunately, a lot of our organisation, we've all passed away. They're old people now, but they are the backbone for setting up our organisation. If at any point you want to join, we'll have anybody. We'll teach you what to say, and we just need volunteers. So if you're interested, it's $10 a year. You can sign it on the way out, and you can then say you're a member of the CIA, Castle Island Association, so you're not saying anything wrong, alright? Okay, so we're going to make our way down, and we're going down, there's 32 granite steps, and I'm going to meet you at the end, and we're going to finish our tour inside the building where the enlisted men were. So I'll give you a little speed before we go into the Taj Mahal. If you need to finish our tour there, that's fine, but I've got 5 minutes inside to finish it. You can hold on the 5 minutes, okay? And see at the bottom, we're going to the right, down the steps, okay? I'm going to go this way. You can go down those steps as well. You can get them down. Oh, yeah.
Mais um buraco aí, galera. Esse é o forte. Aí, ó. Saímos aqui de novo. Acho que a gente vai sair naquele monte de canhão de novo. Será se vai, cara? Não sei. Não sei se vai. Os canhões ali embaixo ali, menores. Vamos descer essa escada aqui, filho. Eu vou registrar tudo.
Yeah, it's easy enough from Boston. It's great.
Yeah, 6 hours, 6.5, whatever.
Yeah, you usually use Aer Lingus.
Yeah.
And the way I go to Portugal is I go Aer Lingus, and you get a flight, and then you get the next right away.
There you go.
A lot of you are here to go to Dublin to get to the States because going in here, right? Okay, so this is the officers' quarters. I'll guarantee it's very cool in here. It's very chilly in here. And we're just going to walk through, and you'll see another cannon, and you'll see the windows. As you walk through, you will see semicircles. That's where they originally would have had all the more cannons. We have some bunk beds, and that's where the men would have been, the enlisted guys. And if you look at the ceiling, I was saying about the white and the red brick, that was the dividing line, and you can see how close the cannons were. So those people have injuries, they had chest infections, you could imagine all that gunpowder going off, etc. And if you look at the ceilings, you just see tiny little slats, and that's all they had for ventilation. So not the best place to be living, okay? But a lot of them moved from here and dealt with battles further down south, all right? As we walk through, I'm going to meet you at the very end, and I'm going to tell you about the doorway, why it's there, and how there are steps outside and it goes nowhere. But this is the entrance in and out. And for those who like Halloween and want to be here in Halloween, that can go for adults, or anybody who wants to come. It's free. Just come and join us. We will have an event where we have a Halloween event. All these will be decorated all the way down to the very end, to this whole block. It's going to be scary and happy and all sorts of stuff. The only condition is you come dressed up, okay? It's all free. And we had over 6,000 last year. So it's the last weekend before Halloween, and they'll be advertising it shortly. And if anyone wants to have a hand at decorating, we will look for anybody to help us out to do it. So they've been doing it for many years. So just bear that in mind. Think about it nearer the date if you'd like to come. All right, so we're going to walk through here. Right, Halloween, so I'll just talk when we get to the end. Okay? Really?
O que tá acontecendo aqui que eu não sei? Olha. Uau! Que isso, cara? Que loucura é essa, velho? Meu filho, atrás dessa janela aqui tem segredo, hein? Atrás dessa janela tem segredo. Eu vou na frente, que eu não sou bobo. Eu não quero perder nada, filho. Olha o barquinho aí. Você imagina, cara? Era esses barquinhos, velho. Outro canhão aí, ó. Guarda segredos aqui, hein, amigo? Isso aqui guarda segredos, hein? Segredo de estado. Olha que louco. Tem um mapinha ali, escrito na mão na época, né? Olha isso, velho. Casinha aqui, capaz que era banheiro, velho. Essa roda aqui, ó.
Okay. As you can see, the pictures of the granite rock here. Now, the reason why I'm going to tell you about this is because it was an important vote for the women. Okay. And so what actually happened was, as we pointed out, the causeway coming in, there was no other way to come in here, and it was a national park. So in the 1900s, the women, the nannies, used to come bring the kids and walk around. But this was closed up. There was no purpose at that particular time in the early 1900s, right? And so they came along, they said, this is ridiculous. The only access is way, way down, because that road to Sullivan's wasn't there. So they're doing one way in and one way out. And as we know, Boston isn't the fabulous sunshine every time. So there were moments when it's snow, wind, rain, you name it. So they wanted to know why they couldn't have shelter in here should it rain, because it's a long way back. And in order to change things at that time, they used to have to go through the Parliament, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. So in order to do that, the women didn't have the vote. And the only way they could do it was through the male vote and their husbands. So the agreement was they had to vote in favour of blowing up this entrance and put a door in order for women to have access. So obviously got the vote because it wouldn't be here today. And the reason for that is because the women said, you won't be coming home if you don't change it. So it was a great vote for women, obviously in the 1923-24, the suffragettes and all the rest of the women got the vote. So it was basically a success for the women on this occasion. So that's the door. All right. It's closed now for vandalism and World War II. They were afraid that it might be invaded, so it's now closed. So now to be open again, right? Okay. So vandalism, basically. So in our organisation, to put over. Okay. So has anybody any questions? Okay. As you walk out, you can see all the equipment that's used to load up the cannon and the names, and then to the right is a privy, the original, I suppose, outhouse, and the seat is an original. All right. I just want to say thank you for coming on my tour. I hope you've enjoyed it and have learned lots of new things about this wonderful fort. I do hope you will come back again. We volunteers, we're always looking for volunteers to come and join us. We'll train you, not a problem. Or if you want to be involved in decorating, please let us know. There will be word at the end of August. It goes over 2 days, Saturday and Sunday from 12 to 4. So if anyone wants to be involved, that would be great on the day as well. So thank you again. Have a safe journey home.
Parabéns. Sensacional.
You have a question you want me to ask about? Okay, I'll do this question. If you just make your way back and we'll see you again soon. Take care.
Thank you. Terminou. Maravilhoso, cara. Sensacional. Vambora, Brasil. Meu amigo, isso aqui guarda história. A história tá registrada aí, beleza? Vou dividir em 2 vídeos porque não vai dar pra fazer um só, cara. Tem o primeiro e esse é o segundo. Então não se esqueça de curtir, compartilhar e tamo junto. Eu prometi aqui mostrar tudo e tô mostrando o avião. Parece que vai bater ali, não vai? Estamos saindo aqui desse fantástico passeio, beleza? Eu vou pegar um folhetim que tem ali para maiores informações. E tamo junto, galera. Fui. Um abraço. Valeu.